The stars stretched endlessly beyond the viewport of the USS Horizon as Admiral Kim. Daeho stood in silence, watching Earth grow smaller behind them. 50 years humanity had waited for this moment. 50 years of building colonies and developing technology and proving to the galaxy that they were worthy of respect. Now finally, the Galactic Council had sent an invitation for Earth to join their ranks as equal members. Daeho was a tall man with gray streaks running through his black hair and eyes that had seen too many battles to trust easily. Something felt wrong about this invitation. It had come too quickly after decades of being ignored. The Council had rejected humanity's requests 17 times before. Why accept now? Commander Park Soo-bin approached him with a tablet in her hands. She was younger than him by 20 years, but she had proven herself in the border conflicts near Jupiter Station. Her instincts were sharp and Daeho valued her opinion more than most. Sir, the Council has scheduled our formal induction ceremony on Station Prime in 3 days. Ambassador Lee Hae-jin departed from Earth this morning and will arrive before us. Daeho nodded slowly without turning from the viewport. What do we know about their preparations for the ceremony? Soo-bin pulled up the data on her tablet. Standard diplomatic protocols from what we can see. They have assigned us quarters in the ambassador wing and arranged meetings with representatives from 12 species. Everything appears normal. Normal. Daeho finally turned to face her. The Council ignored us for 50 years, Soo-bin. They watched us crawl out of our solar system and spread to Mars and Europa and Titan. They saw us develop warp technology on our own without their help. Every time we asked to join them, they said we were not ready. Now suddenly, they roll out the welcome mat. Does that seem normal to you? Soo-bin hesitated before answering. No, sir, it does not. But our orders are clear. Command wants this alliance. On Station Prime, Ambassador Lee Hae-jin walked through corridors that gleamed with technology far beyond anything Earth had produced. The walls seemed to pulse with soft light, and the air carried a faint sweetness that came from environmental systems designed for dozens of different species. Hae-jin was a diplomat trained since childhood for moments like this. Her grandmother had been among the first humans to make contact with alien life, and her mother had negotiated the trade agreements that brought Earth its first warp engines. This was her destiny, and she had prepared her entire life for it. The Valari representative walked beside her. It was a tall creature with an insectoid body covered in iridescent plates that clicked softly when it moved. Its name was impossible for human tongues to pronounce, so it had offered a simplified version for her convenience. Your species has impressed us, Ambassador Lee. The Valari clicked its mandibles, and what Hae-jin had learned was a gesture of approval. So adaptable. So resilient. We have watched your progress with great interest. Hae-jin smiled politely. Humanity is honored by the Council's attention. We hope this ceremony marks the beginning of a long and beneficial partnership. As they walked, she noticed the guards stationed at every junction. Armed soldiers from multiple species stood at attention, their weapons held ready. Far more security than diplomatic protocol required. Hae-jin stored this observation away without letting her expression change. Meanwhile, on Earth, Lieutenant Yoon Jae-hyuk sat in the basement levels of Seoul Command monitoring deep space communications. He was young for his position, only 28 years old, but he had a gift for pattern recognition that his superiors valued greatly. Where others heard static, Jae-hyuk heard whispers. Tonight those whispers were troubling. He had intercepted a fragment of encrypted communication using Council frequencies. His translation software could only decode portions of it, but the words he could read made his blood run cold. Containment. Human problem. Necessary measures. He immediately opened a secure channel to his superior, General Choi Yun-bai. She answered within seconds, her face appearing on his screen with the alert sharpness of someone who never truly slept. Lieutenant, this had better be important. General, I intercepted a council transmission. Fragmented and encrypted, but I was able to decode portions. He sent her the file. Look at these phrases. Yumbai studied the data in silence. She was a woman in her 60s, with iron gray hair cut short and eyes that could freeze a soldier at 50 paces. She had commanded Earth's defense forces for 15 years and had earned her position through brilliance and determination. When did you intercept this? 40 minutes ago, General. The transmission originated from somewhere near Station Prime. Unbai was quiet for a long moment. Have you told anyone else about this? No, General. No, General. I came directly to you. Good. Keep it that way. I want you to continue monitoring all council frequencies. Flag anything that mentions Earth or humans or containment. And Jae-hyuk. She leaned closer to the screen. Trust no one outside this channel. Understood. Jae-hyuk swallowed hard. Understood, General. Aboard the Horizon, Admiral Daeho called a meeting of his senior officers in the secure briefing room. Commander Su-bin stood at his right while Chief Engineer Shin Biora and Tactical Officer Lieutenant Commander Oh Yuna took their seats at the table. Biora was a small woman with calloused hands and grease permanently embedded under her fingernails. She had built half the ships in Earth fleet with her own hands and knew their systems better than anyone alive. Yuna was tall and lean with the cold eyes of someone trained to see threats before they materialized. Daeho activated the holoprojector at the center of the table. A map of Station Prime appeared floating in the air between them. In 3 days, we will dock at this station for humanity's induction into the Galactic Council. Officially, this is a diplomatic mission. Unofficially, I want every one of you prepared for the possibility that it is a trap. Biora leaned forward, studying the station layout. What kind of trap are we talking about, Admiral? Unknown. But the Council has never welcomed anyone warmly before. Every species that joined them did so from a position of weakness after being conquered or threatened into submission. We are the first to be invited as equals. That makes me suspicious. Yuna spoke up, her voice flat and analytical. Our weapon systems are fully operational. I have run 3 combat drills since we departed Earth. If they try anything, we can fight our way out. Daeho shook his head. Fighting is a last resort. We are not here to start a war. But I want options if a war is started for us. But what is the status of our special cargo? Biora smiled slightly. Loaded and ready, Admiral. They will never see it coming. On Station Prime, Hyjin was escorted to her quarters in the Ambassador Wing. The room was luxurious by any standard, with furniture that adjusted to her human physiology and windows that looked out on the swirling nebula that surrounded the station. She waited until the door closed behind her before sweeping the room for surveillance devices. She found 7. She disabled none of them, wanting whoever watched to believe she suspected nothing. Instead, she sat by the window and gazed at the stars while her mind worked through everything she had observed. The excessive guards. The too eager welcome. The way the Velari had looked at her like a predator studying prey. Something was very wrong here. She activated the hidden communicator implanted beneath the skin behind her ear. A gift from her mother before she had left Earth. Untraceable and undetectable by any technology the Council possessed. This is Ambassador Lee, reporting initial observations. The situation here feels compromised. Recommend heightened alert status for all Earth vessels. Will continue to gather intelligence. Lee out. The message would take hours to reach Earth, bouncing through a dozen relay satellites to avoid detection. By the time it arrived, Hyjin might already know the truth about why the Council had suddenly decided to welcome humanity. Or she might be dead. Either way, she would not stop until she uncovered their secrets. That was what it meant to be human. To push forward into the darkness, no matter what waited there. The ceremony was in 3 days. Everything would change before then. The Grand Chamber of Station Prime was the largest room Ambassador Lee Hai-jin had ever seen. It stretched upward for hundreds of meters, with floating platforms arranged in a spiral pattern around a central stage. Representatives from 47 species filled those platforms, watching as she walked toward the center alone. This was supposed to be humanity's greatest moment, the day they joined the galactic community as equals. Hai-jin wore the formal robes of Earth's diplomatic corps, white and blue with golden trim that caught the light as she moved. She held her head high, even as her instincts screamed that something was terribly wrong. High Arbiter Mollux waited for her at the center stage. It was a massive creature with a body like flowing gel contained within a transparent membrane. Colors rippled across its surface as it spoke, and translation devices converted its vibrations into words. Hai-jin could understand. Ambassador Lee Hai-jin of Earth, you stand before the Galactic Council as representative of your species. For 50 years we have watched humanity grow and spread among the stars. We have observed your struggles and your triumphs. Today we render our final judgment. Hai-jin bowed respectfully. Humanity is honored by this recognition, High Arbiter. We come in peace, seeking friendship and partnership with all species. Mollux rippled with colors that the translation device did not interpret. Around the chamber, the other representatives shifted in their seats. Some looked away. Others watched with what Hai-jin recognized as anticipation. Then the energy shields activated. Walls of shimmering force rose from the floor, surrounding the central stage and trapping Hai-jin inside. She did not panic. She had been trained for moments like this. Instead, she stood perfectly still and waited. Ambassador Lee Mollux drifted closer, its membrane pressing against the shield that separated them. Your species will not be joining the council. You will be contained. Humanity is too dangerous to be allowed to spread. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Some species seemed surprised by this announcement. Others nodded as if they had expected it all along. Hai-jin kept her voice steady. On what grounds does the council make this decision? On the grounds of survival. Mollux pulsed with dark colors. We have studied your kind, Ambassador. Your history is written in blood. War after war fought among yourselves for resources and territory and ideology. You nearly destroyed your own world before you even reached the stars. And since then you have spread like a virus, colonizing every rock you can reach and breeding without restraint. We have changed, Hai-jin said firmly. Humanity learned from its mistakes. We have maintained peace among ourselves for over a century. Changed. Mollux made a sound that might have been laughter. You have not changed, Ambassador. You have simply not been tested. Given time and resources, humanity will do what it has always done. Conquer, consume, destroy. The Council cannot allow this. Far across the galaxy, Admiral Kim Dae-ho received the emergency transmission aboard the Horizon. Commander Su-bin played the message on the bridge speakers. Every officer present listened in grim silence. This is Ambassador Lee transmitting from Station Prime. The Council has betrayed us. I am being held captive. Repeat, the Council has betrayed us. They intend to contain humanity. All Earth vessels should assume hostile status. Lee out. The message ended. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Dae-ho turned to his tactical officer. Lieutenant Commander, Yuna, battle stations. All hands prepare for combat. Yuna activated the ship-wide alarm. Red lights flashed throughout the horizon as crew members rushed to their positions. Chief, Engineer Shin Biora spoke from her station. Admiral, I am receiving reports from across the fleet. Council warships are emerging from hidden positions around all our colony worlds. Mars Station reports 15 enemy vessels holding position. Europa and Titan report similar numbers. They planned this. Su Bin said, her voice tight with anger. They planned this from the beginning. Daeho nodded slowly. They invited us into their home and closed the door behind us. Classic trap. But they made one mistake. What mistake, sir? They assumed we would walk in blind. Mars Station Chief Engineer Shin Laura coordinated with her counterpart Dr. Kang Taeyong as they watched the enemy fleet through the observation deck. The alien warships hung in space around the station, their weapons powered, but not firing. They are not attacking, Taeyong observed. He was a civilian scientist and expert in xenobiology who had come to Mars to study samples from alien worlds. This was not the kind of situation he had trained for. Baora shook her head. They do not need to attack. Look at their positions. They have blocked every exit route. No ships can leave without going through them. They are not here to destroy us. They are here to cage us. The same scene played out across every human colony. Council fleets appeared from nowhere, surrounding stations and settlements with overwhelming force. But they did not fire. They simply waited, forming walls of metal and energy that trapped humanity inside their own territory. On Earth, General Choi Yunbai addressed the emergency assembly of world leaders in the underground bunker beneath Seoul. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with cold fury. The council has shown its true nature. They never intended to welcome us. They have been planning this containment for years, probably decades. Their strategy is simple. Surround our colonies. Cut off supply lines. Let us slowly starve until we are weak enough to be managed like livestock. The assembly erupted in panicked voices. Some called for immediate surrender. Others demanded a military response that everyone knew would be suicidal against such overwhelming numbers. EUN-BY raised her hand and the room fell silent. There will be no surrender. And there will be no foolish attacks. The council believes they have won. They think they know everything about us. They watched us for 50 years, and they believe they understand humanity. She smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. They understand nothing. In Seoul, Command Lieutenant Yoon Jae-hyuk worked frantically at his station, pulling up files that required clearance levels above his rank. General Yunbai had given him emergency access to everything, and what he found made his hands tremble. Project Jindo, Project Baekdu, Project Hala, dozens of classified programs stretching back decades. Hidden shipyards, secret weapons facilities, technology that officially did not exist. Humanity had not spent 50 years simply building colonies and asking politely to join the council. They had been preparing for exactly this moment. On Station Prime, Ambassador Lee Haijin sat in her containment cell as High Arbiter Mollix explained the council's reasoning. The creature seemed almost apologetic, as if it regretted the necessity of what it was doing. You must understand, Ambassador. The council has maintained galactic peace for 10,000 years. We have done this by carefully managing the growth of younger species. Those who show promise are uplifted and guided. Those who show danger are contained before they can spread. And humanity shows danger. Haijin said flatly, humanity shows the greatest danger we have ever encountered. Mollix rippled with colors that suggested genuine concern. Your species is more aggressive, more adaptable, and more creative than any we have studied. Given another century, you would challenge the council itself. We cannot allow this. So you will trap us, starve us, break us. We will guide you. Mollix corrected. In time, humanity will learn to accept its place. Your descendants will thank us for saving them from themselves. Haijin laughed. It was not a kind sound. You have made a terrible mistake, Mollix. The creature paused. What mistake? You assumed we would not see this coming. You assumed we would not prepare. She touched the spot behind her ear where her hidden communicator was implanted. A signal pulsed outward, invisible and undetectable, carrying a single coded phrase. Project Jindo is now active. Across the galaxy, buried beneath Antarctic ice, a massive facility hummed to life. Lights flickered on in corridors that had been dark for 20 years. Machines that had waited in silence began to wake. General Choi Yun-bai watched the activation sequence from her command center. Dr. Beek Min-ho stood beside her, monitoring the systems he had spent his entire career developing. All systems nominal, General. Min-ho reported. Jindo is online and ready. Yun-bai nodded. Then let us show the Council what humanity is capable of when pushed into a corner. The trap had been sprung, but the Council had caught a tiger by the tail, and now the tiger was about to bite. No communications. No demands. No desperate pleas for mercy. The Council monitored every frequency, waiting for the panic they expected to hear. Instead, they heard nothing but static and silence. High Arbiter Malix grew uneasy as the hours passed. It consulted with military commanders and intelligence officers, trying to understand what the humans were doing. Every prediction model showed that a trapped species should be negotiating by now. They should be offering concessions and begging for terms. Humanity did none of these things. What are they waiting for? Malix demanded of its advisors. They must know their situation is hopeless. Perhaps they are in shock. A Valari commander suggested. Their species is emotional. They may need time to accept reality. Or perhaps... Another advisor spoke slowly. They are planning something impossible. The Valari clicked dismissively. We have complete tactical superiority. Our fleets outnumber theirs 10 to 1. What could they possibly plan? Beneath the Antarctic ice, General Choi Yun-bai walked through the corridors of the Jindo facility with Dr. Beek Min-ho at her side. The complex stretched for kilometers underground, a secret that had been kept for 30 years. Not even most of Earth's leadership knew it existed. Min-ho was a small man with thick glasses and nervous hands that never stopped moving. He had dedicated his entire life to this project, working in isolation with a team of scientists who understood that they might never see their work used. Now everything they had built was about to be tested. General, the quantum lock warheads are fully operational. Min-ho explained as they walked. Each one is capable of bypassing any shield technology the Council possesses. When the warhead approaches a target, it shifts into a quantum state that cannot be blocked by conventional defenses. It only solidifies at the moment of impact. Yun-bai nodded. How many do we have? 347. Enough to cripple their fleet around Earth and open an escape corridor for our forces. She stopped walking and turned to face him. And they have no idea these weapons exist. Min-ho smiled nervously. They think we spent the cultural exchange programs learning their art and music. We did learn those things. But we also learned their physics, their engineering, the fundamental principles behind their technology. And then we built something better. Across the solar system, similar preparations were underway. Lieutenant Commander Oyuna activated defense satellites that had been disguised as communication relays for decades. Each one contained weapon systems that the Council had never detected. On Europa, Captain Wang Dongwon briefed his Special Forces team in a hidden bunker beneath the ice. These were soldiers trained for exactly this kind of mission. They had spent years preparing for the day when humanity might need to strike fast and hard. Dongwon was a quiet man who spoke only when necessary. His team respected him because he never asked them to do anything he would not do himself. He had scars on his body from a dozen operations, and he moved with the careful precision of someone who knew exactly how dangerous the universe could be. Our target is Station Prime, he told his team. Ambassador Lee is being held there. Our mission is to extract her and disable the station's communication array. This will cut off the Council's ability to coordinate their forces. How do we get there without being detected? One of his soldiers asked. Dong-Wan pulled up a holographic map. The council thinks they know all our ships. They have been tracking our fleet movements for 50 years. What they do not know is that we have been building ships they never saw. Ghost ships designed to be invisible to their sensors. He pointed to a location on the map. We launch from here in 6 hours. Travel time to Station Prime is 18 hours. By the time we arrive, the main offensive will have begun. The enemy will be too distracted to notice a small team slipping through their lines. In Seoul Command, Lieutenant Yoon Jae-hyuk coordinated intelligence reports from across human space. He had not slept in 2 days, but his mind was sharp with focus. Every piece of information mattered now. General Yoon Bai appeared on his screen. Lieutenant, status report. All units are in position, General. The hidden fleets are ready to emerge on your command. Our agents on the colony worlds have confirmed that the enemy is maintaining blockade positions without reinforcement. They believe the trap has worked. Eun-Bai allowed herself a small smile. Good. What about the council flagship? Jae-hyuk pulled up the data. The flagship is holding position near Station Prime along with the main battle fleet. Approximately 200 warships concentrated in that area. They are protecting their leadership. Then that is where we will hit them hardest. Continue monitoring. I want to know the moment anything changes. On the horizon, Admiral Kim Dae-ho gathered his senior officers for a final briefing. The small fleet that officially represented Earth's entire navy sat motionless in space, waiting for orders. Around them, council warships maintained their blockade, confident that they had trapped a helpless enemy. Commander Park Soo-bin studied the tactical display. Admiral, our 47 ships against their 500. The odds are not in our favor. Dae-ho smiled. You are looking at the wrong numbers, Commander. Watch what happens when I send this signal. He pressed a control on his console and a coded transmission burst outward at light speed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the tactical display began to change. New signatures appeared on the screen. Ships emerging from hidden positions behind asteroids and moons and planets. Ships that had been waiting in the darkness for years, some of them decades. Ships that the council had never seen because they had never known to look. Soo-bin watched the numbers climb with wide eyes. 100 ships. 200. 300. The count kept rising. How? She whispered. Dae-ho leaned back in his chair. We have been preparing for this day since first contact. Every trade mission that left Earth carried more than cargo. Every scientific expedition that explored the outer system was also scouting locations for hidden shipyards. Every cultural exchange program was also a spy operation, gathering intelligence on council technology. Chief Engineer Shin Biora spoke from her station. Admiral, final count is complete. We have 412 combat vessels ready for engagement, plus the defense satellites and the special weapons. The council expected to cage 47 ships. Dae-ho said. They will be facing almost 10 times that number. And that is just the beginning. He opened a communication channel to the council flagship. His face appeared on screens across the enemy fleet, and somewhere aboard Station Prime, High Arbiter Malix watched with growing unease. This is Admiral Kim Dae-ho of the Earth Defense Force. You have one chance to release our people and withdraw your forces from human territory. One chance. Malix responded through the communication system, its voice thick with contempt. Your threats are meaningless, human. You are contained. Your colonies are surrounded. Your fleet is outnumbered. Surrender now, and the council may show mercy. Dae-ho did not blink. We gave you a chance. Remember that. He closed the channel and turned to his crew. All ships, commence Operation Dandelion. Across human space, weapons powered up. Engines roared to life. Hidden fleets emerged from the shadows. The 72 hours of silence were over. Now came the storm. It began simultaneously across 12 star systems. The Council, fleet commanders had positioned their ships, carefully blocking every escape route from human territory. They had studied human military tactics and prepared countermeasures for every strategy they expected. What they had not prepared for was an enemy that appeared from nowhere. Around Earth 300 human warships emerged from behind the moon from hidden positions in the asteroid belt and from the dark spaces between planets where no one had thought to look. The Council blockade fleet had expected to face 47 ships. They found themselves surrounded. Commander Park Subin coordinated the attack from the bridge of the horizon. Her voice was calm as she issued orders, watching the tactical display update in real time. All units engage. Priority targets are enemy command vessels and communication relays. Weapons free. The first volley of quantum lock warheads streaked across space. Council ships activated their shields, confident in technology that had protected them for centuries. The warheads passed through those shields as if they did not exist. Explosions blossomed across the enemy formation. 3 command ships were destroyed in the first 30 seconds. Dozens more took critical damage as their shields failed to stop weapons that should have been impossible. High Arbiter Mollix watched the battle reports arrive with growing horror. How is this happening? It demanded. Their weapons cannot penetrate our shields. A military advisor responded with barely controlled panic. The weapons are not interacting with our shields at all, Arbiter. They are passing through as if the shields do not exist. We have never seen technology like this. Then adapt. Find a solution. We cannot adapt to something we do not understand. On Mars Station, Chief Engineer Shinbo Ora led the liberation personally. She had transferred to a breach pod, a small, armored vessel designed to punch through enemy hulls and deliver boarding parties directly into enemy ships. Her target was the Council flagship that commanded the blockade around Mars. It was a massive vessel 5 times the size of any human ship, bristling with weapons and defended by shields that the crew believed were impenetrable. Baya smiled grimly as her pod accelerated toward the target. She had helped design the quantum drill that would cut through the hull like paper. She knew exactly where to aim. Breach in 3, 2, 1. The pod slammed into the flagship. Cutting lasers activated, carving a hole through metal that should have been indestructible. Within seconds, Bagora and her team poured into the enemy ship, weapons blazing. Council soldiers rushed to meet them, but they were not prepared for close quarters combat with humans. The aliens had relied on technological superiority for so long that they had forgotten how to fight with desperation and fury. Baora and her team cut through them with brutal efficiency. Dr. Kang Tae-young monitored the battle from the relative safety of Mars Station. He was not a soldier, but he understood enough about warfare to know what he was seeing. They are collapsing, he said quietly to no one in particular. Their entire formation is collapsing. The Council had built their strategy around the assumption that their shields would hold. When those shields failed, so did everything else. Ships that had expected to face helpless prey suddenly found themselves hunted. Commanders who had planned to accept human surrender were instead fighting for their own survival. Mir Station Prime, the main Council battle fleet, scrambled to respond to the attack. 200 warships moved to protect the station, and the High Arbiter aborted. They outnumbered the approaching human fleet by almost 2 to 1. Admiral Kim Dae-ho watched their formation with satisfaction. They are clustering together. Exactly as we predicted. Lieutenant Commander Oh Yuna confirmed the tactical analysis. All enemy vessels are within the target zone, Admiral. Ready to fire on your command. Dae-ho opened a channel to the special weapons platform hidden in the outer system. Platform 7, This is Horizon. Authorization code Jindo77 Blue. You are cleared to fire. A single massive warhead launched from a position that the Council had never discovered. It traveled at speeds their sensors could barely track, heading directly for the center of the enemy formation. The Council commanders saw it coming. They tried to intercept it with defensive fire. The warhead dodged and weaved using guidance systems that predicted their attacks before they made them. And then it reached the center of their fleet. The detonation was not nuclear. It was something far more elegant. A quantum disruption wave expanded outward, interfering with the fundamental particles that made enemy technology function. Shields collapsed. Engines failed. Weapon systems went dark. 200 warships were suddenly helpless, drifting in space without power or defense. Yuna stared at the display. "Admiral, they are completely disabled." "All of them," Daho nodded. "Target their weapons and engines. I want them crippled, not destroyed. We are not murderers. We are soldiers." Human ships moved through the disabled fleet, systematically destroying anything that could be used against them while leaving life support systems intact. The Council crews would survive, but they would not fight again. On Station Prime, Captain Huang Dongwon and his Special Forces team cut through the station defenses with surgical precision. They had trained for this mission for years, memorizing every corridor and every security system based on intelligence gathered over decades of cultural exchange. Ambassador Lee is being held in Section Gamma, Dongwon told his team. 2 more security checkpoints between us and her. Stay sharp. They encountered Council guards at every junction, but the aliens were confused and demoralized by the reports of disaster arriving from the fleet battle outside. Many surrendered without fighting. Those who did not were dealt with quickly. Dongwon reached the detention area and planted charges on the door. 3, 2, 1. The explosion blew the door inward. Dongwon rushed through, weapon raised, and found Ambassador Lee Hai-jin sitting calmly on a bench, as if she had been waiting for exactly this moment. Captain. She greeted him with a slight smile. "You are right on schedule. Ambassador." He saluted sharply. "Your ride is waiting." General Choi Yun-bai addressed the galaxy through hijacked Council communication systems. Her face appeared on screens across 1,000 worlds, reaching species that had never heard a human voice before. "We came to you in peace," she said, her voice steady and cold. "We asked only for friendship. We wanted to join your community as equals, to learn from you and share what we had learned. You answered with betrayal." She paused, letting the words sink in. "So now hear this. We do not want war. We do not want conquest. We have no interest in ruling your worlds or controlling your people. But we will not be caged. We will not be contained. And we will not be destroyed." Behind her, tactical displays showed the devastation of the Council fleet. Ships burning. Stations damaged. Military power that had dominated the galaxy for 10,000 years shattered in a single day. "This is Earth's final warning." Yun-bai continued. "Leave us in peace, and we will leave you in peace. Threaten us again, and we will finish what we started today. The choice is yours." She cut the transmission. Across the galaxy, species that had lived under Council rule for generations watched in stunned silence. They had believed the Council was invincible. They had believed that humanity was just another young species to be contained or controlled. They had been wrong, and now everything was about to change. 3 months after the Battle of Station Prime, the galaxy had been transformed. Admiral Kim Dae-ho stood in the ruins of the Grand Chamber where humanity had been betrayed. The floating platforms were damaged, now scarred by weapons fire and emergency repairs. The pristine walls were cracked and stained, but the room still served its purpose. Today, it would host peace negotiations that would reshape galactic civilization. High Arbiter Malix drifted across from him. The creature had lost its position of authority, stripped of power by the surviving council members, who needed someone to blame for the catastrophe. Now it was just a witness to the consequences of its own arrogance. How? Mollux asked the question that had haunted it for 3 months. How did you hide so much from us? Deho folded his arms and studied the creature without sympathy. You watched us for 50 years, but you only saw what you expected to see. Primitive mammals struggling to reach the stars. You never considered that we might be watching you back. We monitored your communications, your military movements, your scientific research. You monitored what we wanted you to monitor. Deho corrected. Every transmission you intercepted was designed to be intercepted. Every fleet movement you tracked was calculated to make you believe you understood our capabilities. We played the role of the ignorant newcomers because that is what you expected. Mollux rippled with colors that suggested something like despair. We underestimated you. You did more than that. You underestimated what humanity becomes when pushed into a corner. Ambassador Li Haijin entered the chamber with a delegation of human diplomats behind her. She wore the formal robes of her office, but there was steel in her eyes that had not been there before her capture. She had spent weeks as a prisoner, believing she might die at any moment. That experience had changed her. She approached the central table, where representatives from the surviving council species waited. They looked at her with expressions ranging from fear to grudging respect. 3 months ago, they had dismissed humanity as a threat to be contained. Now they knew better. Haijin activated a holographic display showing the terms humanity was proposing. They were not terms of conquest. Humanity had no interest in building an empire or ruling over other species. Instead, they demanded something far more fundamental. First, full recognition of humanity as an equal member of the galactic community. No restrictions on our expansion. No limitations on our technology. No containment. The representatives murmured among themselves, but no one objected. Second, reparations for our colonies that suffered under your blockade. Medical supplies, food resources, and technology to repair the damage caused by your aggression. Again, no objections. Third, the complete dismantling of the Council's military authority. No species will have the power to blockade or contain another. Disputes will be resolved through negotiation, not force. This demand sparked protest. Several representatives spoke at once, arguing that the Council military was necessary for maintaining peace. Haijin let them speak until they exhausted themselves. You built an empire on fear, she said when they finished. You kept younger species down before they could challenge you. You called it maintaining peace, but it was control. That ends today. If we dismantle our military. A Valari representative clicked nervously. What prevents you from conquering us all? Haijin smiled coldly. Nothing prevents us, but we choose not to. That is the difference between humanity and the Council. You use power to dominate. We will use power to protect. If any species threatens another, humanity will respond. But we will never strike first. We will never contain a species for what they might become. We will give everyone the chance you denied us. The negotiations continued for hours. Details were argued and compromises were made. But the fundamental outcome was never in doubt. The Council had lost the ability to resist. They could only accept what humanity offered. Back on Earth, Lieutenant Yoon Jae-hyuk watched the news feeds with Dr. Kang Tae-young. They sat together in a small cafe in Seoul, surrounded by screens showing celebrations across the planet. People danced in the streets, waving flags and cheering for a victory most of them had never expected. Think they will try again? Tae-young asked. Jae-hyuk shrugged. Maybe. Probably. Species that ruled for 10,000 years do not give up power easily. But now they know what we are capable of. They will think twice before threatening us again. Is that enough? It is a start. General, Choi Yunbai gave her final address to the Global Assembly. The chamber was packed with representatives from every nation on Earth. They had put aside their own disagreements to face the external threat, and now they celebrated together. We did not choose this fight, Yunbai said, her voice carrying across the silent room. We extended our hand in friendship, and it was slapped away. So we showed them what humanity becomes when pushed into a corner. Not conquerors, not tyrants, just people who refuse to kneel. She paused and looked upward at the stars, visible through the chamber's transparent dome. Let this be a lesson to any who would threaten Earth again. We will always extend the hand of peace first, always. But if you take that hand and try to drag us down, you will learn why our ancestors survived. Ice ages and plagues and wars that should have destroyed us 100 times over. You will learn what it means to fight a species that has been practicing survival since before your civilizations existed. Captain Wang Dongwon stood with his special forces team at the memorial being built for those lost in the conflict. Names scrolled past on a holographic display. Soldiers and civilians and diplomats who had given everything so that humanity could remain free. Commander Park Soo-bin stood beside him, reading the names in silence. Was it worth it? She asked quietly. Chief Engineer Shin Bajora answered from nearby. Her hands still carried the calluses from building ships and the scars from battle. Ask me in 100 years. When humanity is spread across the galaxy, and no one remembers a time when we were nearly caged like animals, Admiral Kim Di-ho returned to the horizon for one final mission. The ship had been repaired and upgraded, now carrying technology that combined the best of human innovation with secrets learned from the Council. He would lead a diplomatic fleet to visit the 100 worlds that had watched the conflict unfold. Those species had a choice now. They could ally with humanity and help build a new galactic order based on cooperation instead of domination. Or they could remain neutral and watch from the sidelines as history moved forward without them. Most chose Alliance. Dr. Baek Min-ho returned to his research beneath the Antarctic ice. The weapons platforms were being decommissioned now, hopefully never to be used again. But he was already working on something new. Not weapons this time. Exploration vessels. Colony ships. The tools humanity would need for its next chapter. We spent 50 years preparing for war, he told his team. Now we prepare for peace. But we never forget the lessons we learned. We never let ourselves become weak. We never assume that danger is past forever. Ambassador Lee Hai-jin was named humanity's first galactic representative. She would spend the rest of her career traveling between worlds, building relationships that the Council had tried to prevent. It was difficult work, often frustrating, sometimes dangerous. But she never complained. Someone has to do it, she told a reporter who asked about the challenges. Someone has to prove that humanity is more than just good at fighting. We are also good at making friends, at building bridges, at finding common ground with species that look nothing like us but share our hopes and fears. And across the galaxy, other young species watched what humanity had accomplished. They whispered among themselves, sharing stories of the mammals from Earth who had faced the Council and won. If they could do it, perhaps we can too. The Council's betrayal had been meant to contain humanity forever, to trap them in their own territory until they were broken and obedient. Instead, it had awakened something that could not be contained. It had shown the galaxy that power built on fear could be challenged. It had proven that no species was truly helpless when they refused to surrender. The stars that had seemed so far away now waited to be explored. The future that had seemed so uncertain now glittered with possibility. Humanity had received its final warning, and they had answered with their own. Do not threaten Earth. Do not underestimate humanity. Do not assume that we will ever stop fighting for our freedom, because we survived our own worst impulses. We survived a world that tried to kill us. We climbed from caves to the stars through sheer determination and stubborn refusal to die. And now the galaxy was ours to share. Not to conquer, not to rule, just to explore and discover and meet whatever challenges waited in the endless darkness between the stars. That was the human way. That was what it meant to be from Earth. And no one would ever forget it again.